Morning, everyone. This here with Matt Serrayo, just going to enlighten you with a lot of the changes that are coming through to the Tenancies Residential Act. Matt, some very big topics. I think one of I'll get you to go through and talk about some of the main points of contention, so to speak. But I've got a pet, a lot of tenants have got a pet around these suburbs. Yeah. Can we talk about pets for a moment? What's happening there?
Yes, so coming into effect on the 19th of May, there'll be some larger changes, but one of the most talked about points is the pets and landlords allowing pets into residential properties. So currently, as it stands, you typically need approval from a landlord. That would then change so that a landlord can't unreasonably deny a pet in a property.
Is there a definition of unreasonable at this stage?
Yeah, there is. There's quite a few points.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So if a tenant requests to have a pet in a property, the landlord does have 21 days to respond to that request. If they don't respond within that time frame, then they are automatically allowed to pet in the property.
Okay. A lot of, being a sales background, a lot of our owners often will decide to put properties on the market and test the market rather than go to a full campaign. How does some of these changes affect that?
Yeah, so again, one of the larger effects that are going to come into play is that landlords can now no longer terminate tenants without a valid reason. So part of that, one of those reasons will be proposed sale to a tenancy. So if a sales agent or a landlord is terminating a tenant to test the market as such, they will need to, if they terminate the tenancy, if they want to release the premises because the sale wasn't successful for whatever reason, they will need to satisfy certain requirements to re-let that property within 6 months.
So they can still test the market.
Correct.
And if the property doesn't sell,
correct,
then there are some restrictions as to when they can and can't rent the property?
Correct. So they can't release the property within 6 months unless they have approval from the secretary, and the secretary will request certain documentation and particular requirements to give them the tick of approval to release that.
So maybe you might want to send us a message if that's of interest to you, and Matt and I can delve down on that a bit more. You mentioned the secretary. Who is the secretary?
Secretary is a body created by the New South Wales government. I'm still yet to meet them or speak to them.
So it has been formed?
There will be, yes, correct.
Okay.
As of the 19th of May, there will be a body in effect.
Matt, you touched on no grounds termination. What does that actually mean?
Yeah. So prior to the 19th of May, you can terminate a tenancy with no grounds.
No reason?
No reason as such. So part of the process now will be to give a valid reason to terminate the tenancy. And that will also change in terms of notice periods of how long you have to give the tenant in terms of notice to vacate the premises. So part of those reasons as such is a proposed sale to the property, an actual sale to the property, an extensive renovation or demolishing a residential premises, a family member or yourself moving into the property. There's approximately 8 or 9 reasons in total, or valid reasons as such, and each one of those needs to be used to terminate a fixed term or a periodic agreement.
Okay. Once again, a lot more detail required there.
Part of that, sorry to interrupt, is you will also need to provide evidence as to the termination. So you historically have been able to issue a termination notice and without a reason or without supporting documents. Moving forward, you'll need to provide supporting documents.
One of the points that I've had a few landlords question or ask is, what is the situation at the moment in terms of rental increase? Is there a fixed amount? Is there a period? How much restrictions are on those?
Sure. So rent increase, the legislation around increase in rent has already taken effect. And that basically states that you can only increase the rent once every 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
So that will mean even if there's a change of shared tenancy and the tenants have changed, that agreement is still effective and you can only still increase the rent once every 12 months. There isn't a stipulation or requirement around how much. That will be guided by what the current legislation is and has been, and that is to market rent. but there is no cap. There's no percentages that it is increased to market. And
But once every 12 months.
once every 12
Okay, interesting. Matt, one of the things that I'm personally confused about is notice periods, sale, not sale, 90 days, 60 days, 30 days. Can you just give us a couple of key points?
Sure. So previously you could give a tenant 30 days notice to vacate the premises if they're on a fixed term agreement. Not prior to that fixed term ending, but on or before, you can give them 30 days notice. If the fixed term was to expire, then you would have to give them 90 days notice. So now that has changed, that you will need to give them 90 days notice regardless of the fixed term periodic agreement.
So if the lease has expired or hasn't expired, it's 90 days.
Correct.
Okay.
The only exception to that is if you have signed a 6-month agreement or a short-term agreement, the notice period, instead of being 90 days, does come back down to 60 days. So the 30 days is no longer in the picture. The only time you can give a 30-day notice period is if you have sold the property. If the contract of sale reflects vacant possession and the tenant is in a periodic agreement, or in other terms, an expired agreement, you can give the tenant 30 days notice to vacate that premises.
Thank you for explaining that. I'm still confused, but I'm sure we'll be able to reach out to, if clients reach out to us, we'll be able to elaborate on that a lot more. Are there any other, I'm sure there's several other key points, but just bullet points, anything to be aware of?
Yeah, there's a lot to it. So there's changes in water efficiency charges. So you will be required to have dual flush toilets, as well as applying to with the other regulations involved in water usage.
Plumbers will be busy,
Plumbers will be busy. There is regulations around not charging tenants anything such as bank charges. You need to offer them a free way to pay rent. You can't charge tenants for any database searches or anything like that. So there's no charge that you can make to a tenant other than their rent or utilities or supply of charges. Sorry. There's a lot to it. But I think
a lot taken into consideration. I think now more than ever, is a fair comment would be to, if you are a landlord with a portfolio of 1 or 2 properties, having an active and informed real estate agent to manage your property is probably going to be crucial in the next 6 to 12 months in particular, while these reforms come into play. We'd welcome the opportunity to try and help you in the future. Reach out to Matt and I and send us a message of some sort, or we can set up an email. We'd welcome the opportunity to try and help you in any way. There's a lot to take on board. Feel free to drop us a line, an email, or a call, or a text. Thanks for listening.